Hello everyone, welcome to my Resident Evil 7 Madhouse difficulty, no damage walkthrough, and this is the Baker Household 2, and we're going to be playing Lucas's sadistic game. So right there, you have to examine the deputy's severed head if you want to trigger the scripting for this next area. And there's going to be some demonstrations of the shotgun's capabilities in this section, because this is the first time I'm going to be using it. And as already mentioned, I love the shotgun in this game. The shotgun is very consistent with decapitations, and it knocks over your enemies. And another great thing about the shotgun in this game, as well as with the other weapons, is you can blind fire. You don't have to aim. You can just press R2 and blind fire, and it affords you a lot more movement speed. But right here, there's going to be a fast molded that will bust out of the wall. He's invulnerable during the animation, so wait until he actually starts attacking, and then shoot him in the head. And that'll work beautifully. And right here, you're going to get the snake key. You'll notice I put my cursor in that empty spot there, because I know it's going to be in there. It's one of the great things I like about the inventory system. The fact that you can pre-prepare for an upcoming item that you're going to be picking up. Really, really useful for speedrunning, and then for just allowing the game to flow. And right there, run past that guy. He won't attack you during the animation. And see, because of the fact that my cursor was prematurely on the snake key, I can just get past him very, very quickly. And there's going to be a fast molder that will rush you. So go ahead and counter him and then finish him off with the knife in true Resident Evil fashion. That is Resident Evil Design 101 right there. And you're going to see me blind fire the shotgun. This is really the only Resident Evil game that has blind fire capabilities. And it's incredibly advantageous. And like this whole entire part of Resident Evil 7, this is probably my favorite part of the game. I mean, I like all the parts of this game, but I think this one resonates with me so much because I like the way it flows. I like just hearing Lucas talk. I like going to these different rooms. It's a nice hark back to the older Resident Evil formula, but I just think this game does it sublimely. And we're going to gain access to a blue key card, but we have to do the shadow puzzle. So move the right analog stick up, and then shift it to the right once you see the head align. And there's the blue key card. There are 2 key cards you have to collect for Lucas. One of them is that blue key card, and then the other one is a red key card that's back in the basement. And the snake key is a unique key in that it opens 3 doors. This is the only key that opens 3 doors in the game. And one thing I find quite annoying about this game, which is just a minor thing, is the fact that when you fully use a key, it doesn't automatically discard. It's still in your inventory. I kind of wish they would change that, even though it's not that big of a deal, because you can just put the key away in the inventory. But still, though, the fact that it doesn't automatically discard is kind of annoying for me. So right here, set the clock to 10:15. The puzzle solution is you have to look at the clock that's outside, because it says same time as all other clocks, and the clock outside of this room was 10:15. And that previous room there was actually a piece of environment used in the bedroom DLC, because that was where the bedroom DLC takes place. And I gotta stream the bedroom DLC, and the other content I've not streamed. Like I've not streamed the Daughters DLC or the bedroom DLC or even the 21 DLC. Although the 21 DLC is a little bit harder to stream because it's so easy to get screwed by the game, because I honestly feel like it's a rigged game at times. Like Lucas somehow has the cards necessary for the opponent to just beat you easily. And it gets to the point where it just happens so frequently that you're just like, this is rigged, this defies the laws of probability. So it's just straight up cheating. But you just gotta put up with it. And before you put in those key cards, there's an optional thing you can do. If you picked up the axe that was in the attic where we got the blue key card, and then you come outside to the yard, there's actually a shadow puzzle hidden behind some shrubbery that has a stabilizer inside the crate. But I didn't choose to get it. It wasn't really needed. And then we see Lucas's ugly face. Lucas is practically the equivalent to Salazar from Resident Evil 4, where he's just there to harass the player. And then give off such memorable dialogue. As I mentioned before, I love all the characters in this game. The Baker family is so memorable. Like, Jax is some of the funniest things ever, and then Marguerite, her dialogue can be pretty hilarious as well. And then Lucas is just there to get your adrenaline pumping for this upcoming section. Like, this whole entire section is a nice change of pace. You know, you've been dealing with, like, dark areas, and the music has never really been so intense. But the barn coming up, it definitely gets your heart pumping. And you get a sense of excitement when you're just doing it. That's just how it resonates with me. It might resonate with people differently. But I gotta say, compared to other Resident Evil games, like, just doing this in one barn section, this barn section that lasts for about, like, 10 minutes, I find it a lot more enjoyable than doing a knife-only run on a Resident Evil 2 Remake, even though it's not that difficult on Resident Evil 2 Remake. Like, Resident Evil 2 Remake has become too standard with me, that I just don't get the same amount of resonance and excitement that I did on the first playthrough of Resident Evil 2 Remake. Whereas with Resident Evil 7, I still feel just as excited when I play the game, like I was the first time I was playing this game. And on the topic of my first time actually playing Resident Evil 7, my first impressions of Resident Evil 7 when I played the very first demo were very negative. I had almost lost faith in Resident Evil because I was following in Seraphim 17's steps when it came to how we approached Resident Evil, and that was a big mistake. And then when I finally got Resident Evil 7, and I came to really understand just how mechanically sound this game is, I just came to absolutely love it. And I just liked a lot of the moments in this game. And like I mentioned, it's just my favorite first-person game. I just think it accomplishes so much more than any other big first-person game like Call of Duty. You know, for such a slower-paced first-person game that's relying heavily on its survival horror atmosphere and enemy mechanics and gun mechanics, it feels so much more advanced than any of the bigger titles, and it's so cool.
No, it's 0514.
So just don't even bother trying to do the keypad. Even if you enter the correct code, it's still not going to let you open the door. But there's a reason for that. Because a lot of people believe the code is always 1408, but it actually isn't. The code can sometimes be 1176. Very rarely. That's why the game always has you examine that corpse at the end of the barn section. Because there's a possibility of it for being 1176. But this is the barn section. If you get to this point over here, there's going to be a fast molder that will spawn behind you, so just headshot him. And very, very dangerous. The fast molder, I haven't demonstrated the particular move the fast molder can do when they're in enclosed environments, but they can actually hop off of walls, and they will do this really fast grab animation that's very, very hard to stop when they're just bouncing between the walls. But I mean, as long as you run past them while they're doing the animation, you should be fine, and they won't seem to grab you. But for the most part, never ever try to put yourself in a position where they can just do that move. They're incredibly dangerous. There's no telling what they'll do. You don't know if they're going to do the jump attack. You don't know if they're going to do the wall bouncing attack. You don't know if they're going to do the close range attack. pretty dangerous. And then there's a couple more fast molded here, so just shoot them in the head. There's a neuro round, so we're just going to convert that into strong chem fluid. The only chem fluid that matters. I've not been using any of these normal chem fluid because all that's really good for is just healing items, and of course this is a no damage run. And you can get more incendiary rounds. But I only have one separating agent, so I can only really make one strong chem fluid. And that's pretty much it. So we're coming across a new enemy type. This is the Fat Molded. The Fat Molded, really well designed. However, there's one aspect of it that I don't really like. The game tells you in the tutorials that if you shoot the Fat Molded in the leg while they're running, it will knock them over, but it doesn't work. I've used my shotgun, I've used my enhanced handgun ammo, but every time they've done their charge attack on me and I've tried shooting them in the leg, it never seems to knock them over. I'm not gonna give any negative critique of the Fat Molded based on that. I think they're a really fun enemy to fight. I think they work fine. And I like the fact that they have a counter animation where if you shoot them while they're in a normal state, they will actually counter-attack with an acid attack, and it catches a lot of inexperienced players out. And that's what I noticed when I first fought this enemy, that they just seemed to attack every single time I shot them in a neutral state. But this is it. This is so exciting. The way Lucas is announcing this as if it's like a gladiator fight, that gets your heart pumping and it gets you motivated again. You know, just when you're getting so used to it, Lucas ups the stakes. Really nice. So all I'm going to use is just my enhanced handgun ammo, but make sure you keep your distance because every time you kill the Fat Molded, they'll do that. See that when you pop their head, acid will come out of where their head was, and it will hit you if you're too close to it, and it's very difficult to avoid unless you're strafing. And if you're planning on using a shotgun, like the pump action shotgun, I recommend you blind fire the pump action shotgun if you're trying to use it against the Fat Molded, because when you blind fire the pump action shotgun, you move a lot faster. When you aim, however, it takes quite a while for Ethan to get out of the slower movements, because of course aiming makes you move slower, but because of the fact that you're having to pump the shotgun, it extends the frame data for the slow movement. So that's why I don't recommend aiming when you're trying to use the pump action shotgun against the Fat Molded. Just blind fire. It's a lot more efficient. Not that I would recommend using the shotgun against the Fat Molded, because the Fat Molded are pretty dangerous when you're pretty close to them. I mean, you can loop their acid attack, but if they do their grab, there's nothing you can do. You've got to run away from the grab, because you can't crouch under the grab, because it's a low grab. It's a grab that seems to grab at Ethan's legs or something, and you can't crouch under it. Very dangerous, and that was actually causing me a lot of trouble for the ship section of the game, because there's a moment where you have to get a power cable, and there's a Fat Molded that spawns when you get near the power cable, and I was getting a little confused as to what I would do to actually get the power cable without taking damage from the Fat Molded. Because how I normally do it is I just let him grab me and I use a remote bomb and he's dead. But when you get grabbed by the Fat Molded, or just by any enemy in general, except for Jack, when you block him, it does damage to you. And it's I can't do that on a no damage run. So that section of the ship area is something that's causing me a little bit of trouble, and I'll have to find a good method for it. But anyway, back to this section. This is probably my favorite puzzle in the entire Resident Evil series, because it's a puzzle that will actually kill you if you try to solve it the way Lucas wants you to. So you have to cheat in order to survive. And the way you do this is, back in the blue keycard area, there's a videotape called Happy Birthday. And if you watch it, you'll see the solution that opens this up. And the code here is loser. And that'll allow you to gain access to the valve handle, and you'll be able to prevent Ethan from being set on fire. It's a pretty cool puzzle. There's a lot of detail with this puzzle. There's a lot of disgusting details to the puzzles when Ethan's forced to dig inside of a toilet, and it looks so disgusting. And, you know, there's moments where the character will get impaled by needles, and there's a moment where the mannequin arm will actually draw on your hand. Pretty dangerous. But thankfully we're going to avoid that, because, you know, Lucas is a sore loser. He even tries to kill you after you cheat. Yeah, typical of a serial killer like him. So there's the bomb. Just pick it up and then open this up. For some reason, I see a lot of speedrunners breaking the boards off the wall and then actually picking up the time bomb, but I don't know why they do that. I think that actually gives more time. Unless, of course, while the bomb is rolling, you can't pick it up, so maybe what they do is they try to open up the boards while the bomb is rolling, because you can't actually pick up the bomb while it's rolling. And then that might actually make it go a little bit faster. Maybe that's what's happening. So go ahead and take all your necessary items. As you can see, I have so many pistol rounds and enhanced handgun ammo and shotgun shells. Jack's going to be a piece of cake when we get to him. Once again, highlight the cursor to be over your crank, and you won't have to fumble around in the inventory system so much. Easily my favorite inventory system ever in the Resident Evil series. And I like the fact that it doesn't pause the game, because if there's any event in the game where you just have to wait for an event to happen, you can arrange your inventory, you can place your cursor on a particular item. And I think it benefits speedrunning a lot. So we're coming up on Jack shortly, but there's going to be several enemies that will try to stop us after we use the crank again. And this will be the last time we use the crank, so we won't have to put it in our inventory ever again. But look at this amount of ammo. It's absolutely crazy that you can get this much ammo. Although, I mean, in the older Resident Evil games, like in Code Veronica, you could get 100 pistol bullets before you even got to, like, 25% of the game. We're probably at the halfway point of this game right now. So, yeah, you get way more ammo for the pistol in Code Veronica than you do in this game. Definitely. Right there, just blind fire. And as you can see, I'm still moving at a very fast speed when I'm blind firing. That's why you want to blind fire the shotguns. And here's some opportunities to get some new items before Jack. Also, something I forgot to point out. After that whole cutscene where you sit on the chair and then you're watching Lucas on the television, it gives you a checkpoint. I forgot to point that out. That's one of the coolest designs in Madhouse difficulty. The fact that it gives you checkpoints after certain long events. Beautiful design, Capcom. Who wants to sit through a cutscene every time you want to restart? That was one of the main things that irked me about the original Resident Evil 2. Because the cutscenes you couldn't skip at all. And there were no autosaves in Resident Evil 2, so if you died, you had to watch the cutscenes again, and it was so annoying. Alright, so you don't have to free Mia. I just choose to do it because I'm a nice guy. And it just feels wrong not to free Mia. And then we're going to need to free Zoe. But make sure you have the D-Series arm and head with you.
Do you have both ingredients?
So that you can make the serum.
Right here. There should be enough, right?
Ooh, interesting thing. Even when you don't have the knife in your inventory, Ethan just pulls out a knife out of nowhere, even though it's not in his inventory. That's pretty funny. Almost gives the impression the knife's not that important. Like, the game's trying to class the knife as not very important, but it's actually the most important tool in this game. It's the most underrated weapon ever in this game. In all honesty, I feel more comfortable having my knife out when I'm just going through the areas
Hey, one of those is mine.
than having any other weapon out. And look at that. You get another checkpoint. Because this is all an unskippable moment. They don't want you to sit through these moments when you die, or when you're trying to do a no damage run. It's so great that Capcom is smart. They're practically the smartest company I ever know. They're the most innovative company as well. Like they're smart and innovative, and they made that clear with Resident Evil 4 and 7. Even 5 and 6. Like, Resident Evil 5 is the definition of a true co-op game. And then 6 had some pretty advanced mechanics for its time. But better than any other game I played. And then 7 is just the best first-person game I've ever played. So many great games. It's just a shame that Resident Evil 2 Remake has just gone for the average model. And I don't even know if I should be looking forward to Resident Evil 3 Remake if it's coming out, or even Resident Evil 8. But I hope Resident Evil 8 is being developed by the same team that made Resident Evil 7. I'm not too sure which team made Resident Evil 2 Remake. But considering it had more than 150 developers, I would assume it's the Resident Evil 6 team. But if it's the Resident Evil 6 team, how can they make such an average game like Resident Evil 2 Remake? I'm so confused with the way Capcom's development teams work. But once again, I apologize for these awkward transitions. It's just PlayStation's fault. Because of course Resident Evil 7 is rendered at a very high quality. So therefore PlayStation's just forced to cut all this. So this is for Jack Baker. If you stand right in front of him, he'll keep doing this swipe move and you can just loop it. Very, very handy. And before anyone makes any complaints about this, saying that this should have been a better designed fight, there have been several exploits like this in the older Resident Evil games, even in games like Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6. 6 is filled with a lot of moments where you can just do looping techniques. And then Resident Evil 4 had several looping techniques with the U3, for instance, in when you're trying to do it like knife only. And then for like Resident Evil 5, I mean, you can loop Jill a lot, and then you can loop Wesker. Lots of different looping techniques. And then like with Birkin, like G3 Birkin from Resident Evil 2, the original version of Resident Evil 2. You can pretty much loop his slash, and you'll just run under it every time, because that's like the only move he ever does when you're close, and you can just kill him knife only. Very, very simple. So, yeah, I've listed off several examples, so don't you dare make any complaints about this strategy. And if you do make a complaint, you're probably someone who doesn't understand how great the strategy is, because you're probably a person who never even knew this existed. The amount of people that have trouble with this fight, my video that I shared of me doing this fight no damage, I got 8.7 thousand views, and I got a lot of likes on it, and like, so many people were asking me questions, like, so many people were having trouble with this fight, and I just trivialized it for them, so they were pretty shocked when they discovered this. So Jack has about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think he has 7 weak spots. So at the beginning, just try to prioritize his head, his arms, and then his chest. Those are the weak spots I always go for. And the one thing you got to be careful of is falling off. It's very easy to fall off of the platforms if you're too close to the edges. And another big problem with that is that when you get to the next phase where everything's on fire, to signal the next phase, Ethan stumbles backwards, and he can actually stumble off the ledges. So you got to put yourself in a position where he won't do that. Yeah, but as you can see, the pump-action shotgun doesn't do a lot of damage to his eyes. The double-barreled shotgun does a lot more damage. Also, the double-barreled shotgun has a lot more range. Like, from where I'm standing, I can hit that eyeball I was currently shooting at with the double-barreled shotgun in 2 shots, and it would be destroyed. Very, very useful to know that about the double-barreled shotgun. But right there, I stood in the right spot so that when Ethan was stumbling backwards, he didn't fall off the edge. And we're just going to repeat the same strategy, and there's a stupid transition, but this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to hit his tail while he's doing the slash. If you can get Jack into this corner here where the fire is, hitting his eyeball on his tail is a lot easier. It's very, very easy. And thankfully the enhanced handgun ammo does so much damage. It's practically the second best alternative to the shotgun. And I destroyed his weak spot there. And now there's only 2 more weak spots left. One of them is on his lower abdomen, and then the other one is underneath his tail. And thankfully, getting to the ladders is pretty easy once you actually know where they are. But just be careful because Jack's tail can kind of clip you and prevent you from getting to the ladders quick enough. And if you get into any moments where Jack's climbing up and you're on the ladder as well, either try to get up the ladder as quickly as possible and try to get Jack to try to swipe you, or just go back down and just stay under him. And also right here, there's some damage that's impossible to avoid unless you stand where I am. If you stand in the spot where Jack spawns for this phase, you'll take damage. So do not stand in the spot where Jack's rising out of the water, because he'll damage you as he's rising out of the water. And all you gotta do is just go left or like, depending on what hand he uses, you need to run in a particular direction. So when he uses his right hand, which he just did, run to the left. He's using his left hand, so now run to this side. And he'll go down very, very quickly. I saw some idiot on my video for this. He, for some reason, said, "Oh, it's better to stand near the door and he'll never hit you." But I tried doing it, and he hit me every single time, so I just deleted that guy's comment and I just muted him. What an asshole. I cannot believe he tried to invalidate my own strategy that works perfectly. And he's like, "Oh, doing this whole going from left to right method is actually so annoying, this and that." What a moron. But that is the end of Jack. All you gotta do is just get out of here. Zoe's gonna open the door for you.
Ethan, this way.
But wait! Jack's still on his last limbs. But you don't have to worry, it's just a QT. The only QT of this game, so I don't know what SHAREfactory is talking about when he says this game is full of QuickTime events. This is the only QuickTime event in this game, for crying out loud. I don't know what he's talking about. My god. I'm so glad I don't take after SHAREfactory fully. Now that I've actually understood how flawed some of his judgments are when it comes to how he judges games.
Are you alright?
Yeah.
I mean, some judgments of certain games I'll definitely agree with him, based on what he's shown. But like, he's shown absolutely no footage of Resident Evil 7, so how can he say his statement is correct? You know? But enough about that. This is where you get to choose the ending. The good ending is if you choose Mia, and it's actually the better ending for speedrunning. This is the first Resident Evil game where picking the good ending is actually good for speedrunning.
There's only one left.
And I'm going to pick Mia, always.
What are we gonna do now?
And that is the end of this video. Stay tuned for future parts. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.